Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
I'm doing great.
Doing
How are
great?
you?
I'm
Yeah.
doing great. I'm ready to get baked with you.
I know you are. I'm really ready, too.
Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you listen to the show. And we're about to get normal. And we are smoking some Haterade grown by our friend G.O.A.T Genetics that we got to see this weekend. And I'm super stoked because Haterade is a 50-50, evenly balanced hybrid created through crossing the iconic Granddaddy Purp. Oh, I love Granddaddy Purp. And Larry OG strains. Now, I don't know if this is what G.O.A.T Genetics crossed this with. This is what I found on the intranet. So if you're feeling down in the dumps, take a little sip of this Haterade and you instantly feel you're in the new place of pure happiness. The high will settle in a pretty quickly taking on your mind within a few minutes of your final toke. You'll feel mentally stimulated and lifted, filled with a happy social ability that has you easily chatting with anyone around you.
Oh, boy.
A light physical tingling comes next, sinking into your limbs and eventually pulling your body down into a pleasant, relaxing state. Combined, the average THC is in this, it says 20 to 24%. THC level, these full body effects make Haterade an insomnia, eye pressure, glaucoma, great choice for treating those chronic fatigue. Also,
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
This bud has a sweet and fruity tropical mango flavor with a lightly flowery and coffee-like exhale. Ooh, Mrs. Weedman's favorite, coffee. The aroma is very similar with a light, spicy coffee overtone, except I've never had a coffee overtone.
No, I've never heard someone describe
No, not
weed
at
with
all.
coffee.
No. But also tangy, tropical mango, and fresh, flowery herbal tea. Haterade buds have long, peppery-shaped emerald green nugs with orange hairs, golden undertones, and a coating of tiny white trichomes dripping with sweet, sticky resin. I do have to admit this was very sticky. And the effects are body high, happy, relaxing, tingling, uplifting, relieves symptoms of chronic pain, eye pressure, fatigue, glaucoma, insomnia, and stress. These are a few of my favorite things
Well,
that this will
to get rid of.
To get rid of, yes. Flavors: coffee, fruity, mango, rose, sweet, tropical, and woody. And the aromas are coffee, earthy, flowery, herbal, rose, spicy, tea, and woody.
Wait, are there two strains in there?
No.
It's one strain.
One strain.
But you read a description twice. I was like kind of intrigued by the whole joint.
Really?
I kind of spaced out.
I don't remember then what I read twice. So, but I'm trying to see if I can catch the coffee flavor.
Maybe more like the coffee, like the fruit aspect of the coffee. You know, because some coffee varieties are fruity and sweet.
I've never had fruity coffee before.
I don't like fruity coffee.
Never had fruity coffee. I've had coffee that tastes like dirt.
Well, yeah.
But never fruity. It has a very nice taste.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's
I
very
like it.
smooth. And we're also smoking in a Spliff Society wrap with
Of
it
course
too.
we are.
So, but I'm looking forward to the effects of this too.
So,
Like to see if it helps with any ailments that I have.
right.
I don't really have any of those ailments that are on there. I'm just hoping it helps something. G.O.A.T Genetics, we appreciate you throwing us this Haterade. We're looking forward to smoking it now, during the show, and after the show. So if you haven't met G.O.A.T Genetics, we've gotten to know him through some of the events we've done. We got to see him this weekend at Little Bean Farmers Market up
Yeah.
in Carroll Stream that we did this weekend, and got to see all of our fan favorite people up there and had a great time. Smoking doinks for people, stuffing doinks for people, and it was just an overall good crowd. That is a consumption event.
Yeah, it is.
Like there is a lot of consumers that come out for that event, and even G.O.A.T Genetics even said, he goes, "This is a consumer event." When we were talking to him, so it makes sense because I mean, there's a lot of weed smoke, and some of our fan favorite friends are there too. It's great. You get to enjoy seeing all the people that come for these events. Just you build up more friendships and more fun. You get to smoke more doinks with people. A lot of edible makers, a lot of good edible makers. Actually, before we even talk about the edible makers, I want to talk about the food.
Oh, my Lord.
You could get it infused if you want. We didn't. I didn't do it infused. But the brisket tacos.
Was it Juju's barbecue?
I believe so.
Holy crap, it was so delicious.
You're not a huge meat eater, too. I mean, you do enjoy meat, but you took a bite of that brisket and you looked at me, you're like,
oh, my Lord. That was so good. Soft taco shell, like a small, like it was like a hand taco, you know, like a street taco, I should say.
Yep.
It had just a ton of brisket that was so flavorful and juicy. And then it had homemade fresh guac and then a homemade green salsa.
Yep.
And that was it. Maybe a little cheese was on there.
There
I
was
don't
a
even
little
know.
cheese. No, I don't even
didn't
remember.
Even need it.
Didn't need
my
it.
God.
But that brisket was to die for.
It was so good.
Yes. And then we walked around and I got us a bunch of desserts.
There were desserts.
There was non-infused too, which was great. And I got some chocolate chip cookies. I got I know, Tasty. What was her name? The booth that made the noodles.
The toasted. She sells all sorts of different foods infused, and she had a Thai noodle. Yuki is in the studio, and she's very vocal, and she just let out this big like I'm so bored with you moan and groan. Hi, Yuki.
So, but she made this Thai noodle.
A cold Thai noodle salad. You know, peanuts, cilantro, lime, chili. Oh my God, that was amazing too.
Delicious.
It was just delicious.
And all the desserts we got to try. We did eat one infused one that was like 5 milligrams. That was great. I don't remember what it was. I just it was throughout the whole time someone gave me something. Oh, there was walking around with gummies.
She had homemade gummies.
That's it. Yes.
Yep.
So, but there was just some dope ass people there. Vendors were cool. Some really unique stuff we got to see. Charlie, who runs it, does a great job. And we got to see a lot of our favorite people in the world. So, I mean, all the events we get to go to, we get to see some of our favorite people in the world. So, I mean, it's just amazing just being around all the people, just one love, one community, one fantastic event. Just people sharing stories, people sharing joints, people talking about weed, small business owners, cannabis business owners.
We're all talking about our trials and tribulations of business, pros, cons, ups, downs, everything.
It's just
helping each other, brainstorming, sharing ideas,
sharing stories.
It's cool.
Yeah, you know, promoting each other's brand. You know, when we always buy something or someone gives us something, we always promote. Like I have like 5 more strains to talk about from breeders and growers giving us stuff. And I told everyone, you know, just one show at a time. So once a week. So I have 5 more weeks of smoke,
of joints,
to smoke, so that people, like I said, you give us a nug, you give us a joint, we're going to talk about you on the show. So Go Genex, thank you so much again. Charlie at Little Bean Farmers Market, thank you so much. And then what are we doing this Sunday, the 4th?
Yeah,
May Sunday the 4th be with us.
Is the first 2024 Brunch of Stoners.
Yes.
So on Sunday, we are sponsoring the Brunch of Stoners smoke tent for the year. And so I'm not going to say what we're going to do. Just if you have a ticket, come find us. And if you don't come to it, then we'll tell you about it next week. But it's going to be super sweet. I hope that the space, the vision that I have in my head translates. You know, like when you're decorating someplace blind.
I
know the measurements. That's all I know.
I saw the stuff you bought, and it's going to be dope.
I think it's going to look pretty good.
Yes.
We'll share some pictures next week. We'll tell you guys all about it. But we're going to have the smoke tent, so our trays, the 8 Decades trays and ashtrays will be out in the smoke tent. And then it'll be decorated, special, and I think it's going to be great.
Yep.
So we're going to be hanging there on Sunday. Right now, Chicago is like in the 40s.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any...
Tent will be heated.
Yeah, I think the tent will be heated. And it's going to be a decent day.
And partly smoky.
Yeah, partly. Push through the clouds and come say hi.
We'll definitely be there. Mr. Weedman will have his briefcase with him, rolling joints too, and his own little setup off to the side, having fun. Come see me, talk about weed, come give me a hug, come smoke a doink with me. I'm looking forward to this Sunday eating those Pop-Tarts too.
Yeah.
Looking
Crybaby
forward.
Sweets.
Crybaby Sweets will be in the house. and all the great people we get to see on that one too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just every event I look forward to because we get to see a lot of cool people. You know,
and meet new people.
Yeah, and meet new people too. So it's just amazing, and just you know, makes me excited to see us all together. You know, smoking, enjoying, just relaxing.
I was saying at our last event, at the Little Bean event, I kind of looked around the room at one point. You know, cannabis events, I've said it before, you go to a bar and things progressively generally get louder as the evening goes on, or at a party where there's alcohol involved, right? It gets louder, 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 music gets louder, people get louder, da 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 da. Maybe someone fights, maybe somebody falls. You know, there's usually some
Maybe
activity.
Someone pukes.
Maybe someone pukes. Something happening. There's usually an event, right? You go to cannabis events that are non-alcoholic cannabis events. There is not a bar with booze. It is just cannabis. And they progressively get quieter and calmer. And you kind of feel like, oh, wait, did everyone leave? And it's like, no, everybody's just kind of like slumpy.
Just chilled.
Just chill.
Yeah.
And just enjoying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's
DJ
activities, so people get busy doing things. Yeah, so I was saying at Little Bean, I was like, gosh, if we could just get politicians to be a fly on the wall and see what happens at these events and how harmless they are and how much community there is and how much like positivity. They're great event. It is a great space.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are like just entering the world of cannabis or have always been in it but have never done it socially, it is really wonderful. And I think that you should give these events a try. At every event, you could tell there's a handful of people that don't know anybody. And I've gone up to people like, hey, I haven't seen you before. Like, I'll start a conversation or, you know, just try to strike up some banter so that they feel welcomed. And that is generally what happens across the board. You know, like and then we sometimes will see the people at another event then because they really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So find your local events, really, and try to get out to them.
Yes, you should. And then you can find us and smoke with us.
Yeah. And come find, if you're in Chicago, come find us.
Yes, come find us and hang out with us.
It's fun.
Yes, it's a good time. Anything else?
I can't see right now.
You're stoned, huh?
Oh, boy.
G.O.A.T genetics got you again.
Ooh-wee.
His weed always gets us. Gets us pretty high.
I literally need glasses. I mean, I know I need glasses.
They're on your head.
I know. When it comes time to read.
Good thing I get to go first, huh?
Yeah.
You ready to get the show started? Maybe you're not, but I sure am.
I'm good.
Let's do this. All right. So Dov Boy sent me an article about a week ago about a woman convicting and stabbing her boyfriend 100 times because she was induced by a cannabis psychosis rage.
Whoa.
Yes. So she's not going to spend any time behind bars because the judge felt for her. But the judge dismissed all special allegations against her, suspended a potential prison sentence, and placed her on a 2 years of formal probation. He also said she does not have to do any jail time.
She killed somebody?
Hold on. The judge said if she adheres to the conditions of her probation, she can have the case against her dismissed, and she will spend no time behind bars. During the sentencing hearing, both sides presented impact statements, both in person and in writing. 33 years old, as of last week, also made a statement to the court and the victim's family. The crime involved the victim being stabbed more than 100 times, and she even stabbed herself and her dog.
Whoa.
During her trial, both sides in the case agreed that she acted under the influence of cannabis-induced psychosis, and so the killing was involuntary manslaughter. You know, everybody in the world just saw you do that face, too, which is great.
The fuck? That's what I say?
The prosecution maintained that even though the marijuana made her unaware of what she was doing, she bears responsibility for having used it in the first place.
That's fucking bullshit. Obviously, nobody in that courtroom that had any say in that determination has learned to understand cannabis. But I understand, too, that cannabis-induced psychosis generally happens to someone with underlying mental health disorders.
Or it could have been on other drugs.
Or other drugs.
You know?
There could have been a whole barrel of things.
Right.
But Or is THC?
Right. So it's all marijuana's fault.
She went. What does that say? Reefer madness.
Yeah, reefer madness right there.
Right?
Adults only. But
wow.
So what was great about this, though, there was an article that came out on Green State.
I mean, do you agree, or do you think she should be free?
No, I think she did it on her own accord.
Yeah.
I don't think she was
well, I mean, there could have been
psychosis.
A whole compilation of factors.
I'm 100% pro cannabis, so I mean, I'm going to stick up for the plant.
I'm going to stick up for the plant.
Before I stick up for someone stabbing her boyfriend 100 times, stabbing herself, but also stabbing her dog. That's where I draw the line, damn it.
Not even like stabbing
That's
yourself.
where I draw the line. You can stab the boy 100 times. You can stab yourself a couple, 2, 3 times. But when you stab a dog,
fuck it.
That's where I draw the line.
Done.
The dog did nothing, but probably show you love. Even while you were stabbing the boyfriend 100 times, the dog was probably still like,
want to go out and play?
Yeah, you want to go play? And then when it was done, Bobby came up to you and gave you kisses and said, I'd still love you anyway. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So the dog didn't deserve to be stabbed.
Right.
So that's why I believe it might have been, it was definitely psychosis. Because who the fuck stabs a poor dog?
Like, did they check her for any other drugs?
No, I don't know. It doesn't say. Probably not. They probably just heard THC and they're like, bam!
Damn it.
So, but let's talk about this article from Green State because I think it's really good.
Huh.
The Real Story on Cannabis-Induced Psychosis by Kara Weistock.
Oh, she's a good journalist.
Phenomenal. So, media coverage on cannabis-induced psychosis is polarizing. There are careful tellings of studies and expert takes from cannabis media paired with drastic sweeping anti-cannabis statements using psychosis as a shield. Now, there's a skewed understanding of the connection between smoking weed and developing conditions like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. There are cannabis consumers everywhere, even some that have been consuming quite a lot for a long time and haven't experienced psychosis, but still research continues to sound the alarm. Even family television personality and addiction specialist Dr. Drew Pinsky recently shared his views on Fox News. The bottom line in a tempered statement about how he was surprised at the severity of how cannabis psychosis is presenting. The conversation even went to court and trial by Bryn Spedger, who was given a comparably lenient sentence. This is what the article I read just a minute ago, due to acute psychosis brought on by large quantities of THC. Some suggest this sets a dangerous precedent that smoking cannabis leads to murder. Mm-hmm. But like a topic of cannabis-induced psychosis, it's complicated. But did anyone ever check to see if she was actually smoking like that spice or that K2 stuff? That's it. Was she smoking that stuff?
Right.
That stuff's been known because
maybe
it's
she
not
had bath salts.
They spray.
What is that one that like makes people slump on the corner and
that's bath
and then they
salts.
like jump out their window.
They turn them into zombies. But this is that K2 or that spice where it's the incense and they spray that spray on there and people smoke it thinking it's cannabis or knowing that it is K2 or spice, the synthetic cannabis, and still use it anyway because they just are addicted to it. That has been known.
Does that test positive for THC?
No, because there's no THC in it at all. But it's been known to put people into psychosis, schizophrenia phases, to where I've seen people like videos of people jumping out of windows and killing themselves, stabbing themselves, stabbing other people. So I don't know in that article that they read that they said that they tested her for THC, but said that she was smoking smoking cannabis. So the cannabis psychosis connection. There are two camps on edges of the issues of cannabis and psychosis. One side believes cannabis has no medical value and causes psychotic episodes. Okay, there's almost 1 billion people that smoke, 500 million people in the world that smoke cannabis. That right there, that one line is just like, that one camp needs to just pack it up. One side believes that, like I said, no medical values. Where am I at here? One side believes cannabis has no medical value and causes psychotic episodes. The other, whose lives have likely been changed by the plant, aren't ready to see any negatives. The right place to be on this is probably somewhere in the middle. Dr. Cassandra Buttocks, Chief Medical Officer of Mental Health Platform of Psych Plus, shared insights in cannabis and psychosis with Green State. The relationship between cannabis use and psychosis is complex and not fully understood. This is largely because, although it has been studied extensively, different data leads us to different conclusions, said. Everyone has a unique endocannabinoid system. It makes sense that psychosis would be dependent on each person. The research supports this understanding. Sometimes it shows no connection, while others it signals that cannabis may trigger psychosis. Research on cannabis and psychosis. There are many studies on the topic of cannabis and psychosis, and that was mentioned. The results vary widely. One of the most recent is a cross-sectional analysis of psychosis-related care and health services provided in Ontario from 2014 to 2020. Ontario cannabis sales started in 2018, so statisticians were hoping to see if there was a spike in psychosis-related treatment after the province went green. There was no indication of increased incidence of cannabis-induced psychosis in the short term, 17 months after legalization. So they were looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
However, the full window saw the increase in the health services used for weed-induced psychotic disorders. This suggests psychosis may present after long time regular consumption. Research published in October told an opposing tale. A cohort of 210 teens at risk for psychosis took part in a study, which tracked the cannabis-consuming participants over 2 years. Continuous cannabis consumption did not increase the presentation of psychotic events or episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 210 teens.
I mean, maybe there's
who
going
are
to be
more at risk.
And there may be like a small demographic of people. Like there's a small demographic of people that can't consume weed. They get violently ill. They get nauseous. They throw up.
Yep.
And there may be a percentage that it causes some sort of episode or fatality, something, triggers a heart something or triggers wild behavior, whatever. There's going to be this small population of there's a lot of people that consume weed. Right.
So the results are duplicated on both sides, highlighting the perplexing relationship between cannabis and psychosis. The answer can probably be found in brain chemistry. Upsides of cannabinoids and the brain. There are a few ways psychosis can be present. One way is from the dysregulation of dopamine, and the other is misfiring in the brain. Research shows how cannabis might help regulate the brain in some ways. These are often multi-cannabinoid formulations that don't center on THC. That isn't the only positive correlation between cannabis and mental health. Another study explored how cannabis might help people with OCD, Tourette's, and other neurological disorders. The result did indicate less compulsion when consuming cannabis. A frontier in psychology cannabis study cohort with clinical depression or anxiety had lower depression scores when using medical marijuana. These results and those related to depression and anxiety are double-edged. However, there is evidence that cannabis consumption may increase the risk of depression or aggravated anxiety. But we just read that we also just read, though, it could be due to your brain. Mm-hmm. So again, the patient's response depends on the person consuming, consumption method, and formulation or dose.
What if eventually they get to a point where they take a blood sample to analyze your cannabinoid,
your
endocannabinoid system to evaluate the balance? These are the cannabinoids
we did talk about
this
that.
Is the percentage you need.
We talked about that a while ago. There was talking about research that research was going to happen, that they were going to start doing that. I don't know if it was blood drawn though, but remember there was that DNA testing. They were going to find out what cannabinoids were right for your body.
Yeah, vaguely.
And then remember I said, if someone who's going to be a very rich person will be able to manipulate that certain strain for that person's DNA.
Yeah,
I've said it.
It could be really cool.
There's going to be someone smart out there that's going to do it.
That's the way that they'll have to do it to make medicine of it.
Right.
Because there's so many factors in how it functions within each person's body that are different.
Mm-hmm. True. Integrative mental health clinicians and plant medicine formulator Shari B. Kaplan offered her take on Green State about the relationship between cannabinoids have with the brain. Having too much THC can induce psychosis due to overproduction of dopamine when done in high doses, Kaplan said. Therefore, if someone just keeps smoking THC or concentrates, that's going to make their cerebellum produce more dopamine. Cerebellum, I should say, not cerebellum. Sorry. I speak sometimes other languages that no one understands but Mrs. Weedman, so she laughs because she actually knows what I'm trying to say.
I know what you mean.
Which can misfire into the temporal lobe and cause psychosis. Bodach shared Kaplan's sentiments that high THC and regular consistent consumption are contributing factors in cannabis-induced psychosis cases. Research is going to better comprehend these connections. Understanding the effects and methods of cannabis consumption is crucial in evaluating its potential impact on mental health and exploring the connection between cannabis use and schizophrenia. Developing cannabis-induced psychosis. The risk of developing cannabis psychosis as a result of cannabis consumption seems to rise for young men, with seniors being at the lowest risk. Originally, it was thought that only those predisposed to schizophrenia were at risk of developing cannabis-induced psychosis, but recent findings have changed that. Now it seems that while those with the family history of psychotic disorders or previous psychosis were at risk, so if anyone who consumes an excess of THC all at once or regularly over a long period, those experiencing an episode of psychosis brought on by cannabis are almost 50% more likely to develop schizophrenia. These highlights a need for cannabis harm reduction, including dose education to stifle overconsumption, especially among teens. The current state of research does not allow us to reach many definitive conclusions with regards to how this means of consumption affects the risk of psychosis. Butters said, however, in addition to theory that stronger strains of cannabis can be the cause of increased chance of mental illness. The more cannabis that is consumed, the higher the risk of mental health issues. Kaplan doubled down on the notion, sharing that that some who rely on cannabis as a mental health tool might fall into clinical consumption pattern leading to psychosis. If your brain has a dysregulation of dopamine, you'll just keep smoking more and more when you are deficit of dopamine, thinking it's going to make it better. However, you will then overproduce, and then when you produce enough, psychosis can occur, Kaplan shared. Mrs. Weedman's favorite line to Mr. Weedman: moderation is the key. Moderation to almost everything.
Yeah, just about everything.
Does consuming cannabis cause psychosis? Smoking weed doesn't make people schizophrenic, but abusing it may increase the risk of psychotic episodes. Research continues to show that THC alone isn't always a medical dose, but a full spectrum of cannabinoids, like that which is present in cannabis flower, is more effective in unlocking potential benefits. Flower power. Flower power. Along the same vein, just because there may be cases of cannabis-induced psychosis, that doesn't write off the potential therapeutic benefits of the plant, as some media outlets suggest. Like the plant, those covering the cannabis beat should strike a balance when presenting both sides of the story. Ha-ha! There it is right there. Both sides of the story. All we got in that article was one side. THC, cannabis psychosis, woman stabs dog, boyfriend 100 times and herself. You notice how I said dog first. I'm still pissed about that. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just about like the same thing with Reefer Madness. Why the Cannabis Tax Act and 1937 and all the stuff happened for Harry Asslinger. Because of the Reefer Madness era, they thought this was happening. They were talking about cannabis psychosis back then. They were
making that shit up.
Right. That said, those in treatment for or with predispositions of psychotic disorders should consult with physicians before consuming. That is especially true when planning to eat, vape, or smoke large amounts of THC. Budich explained that developing psychosis from cannabis consumption is relative to every person. After all, patients respond differently to medications. Cannabis is a medicine. The plant is a medicine. So people, if you use it as a medicine, some people have reactions to certain medicines. I take cannabis for medically. I'm a medical patient. I take it because I need it to help me sleep. I have back problems and I have concussion syndrome. I need it. People that have PTSD, people that have ailments. You have ailments. Cannabis actually helps you. Mm-hmm. It helps people with anxiety, depression. Some people it doesn't. It's saying it here. If it's used correctly, you'll know, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it's saying. And indeed, many individuals do consume cannabis as a way of self-medicating a pre-existing condition, including psychosis. These two are not mutually exclusive. I also like cannabis socially. I use this socially, too. It helps me be able to go out and actually be a normal person.
Just relax and enjoy. Yeah, you're not twitching in the corner.
Until more research fine-tunes our understanding, the exact connections between cannabis and psychosis are unknown. But it's safe to say that while all cannabis doesn't cause psychosis, irresponsible consumption might. Moderation, key to life. Until more research is done on the matter, that's the best regular patient or cannabis consumer can do. Great.
Mm-hmm.
And then feeling depressed or thinking about suicide, help is available anytime. National toll-free suicide hotline, 1-800-273-8255, or online at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. And that article was written by Kara Whitestock. Phenomenal article on the explanation of cannabis psychosis. So, Mrs. Weedman.
Yeah.
You got any of that THCA everyone's been talking about?
Have you heard about it yet?
Anybody been talking about that
everywhere.
THCA?
THCA.
You got any of that extra goodness?
So, does it get you high? Well, the answer depends. THCA has been getting a lot of attention lately, both from cannabis insiders and consumers. The popularity of THCA flower and other products is growing, and more people are using the cannabinoid than ever before. But many people wonder, does THCA get you high? It's a valid question. THCA is the precursor to good old THC, the compound in cannabis known for its psychoactive effects. Since THC gets you stoned, surely its parent would get you stoned too, right? Well, the answer may be a bit more complicated than you think. While raw THCA may not get you high, turning it into THC does. And exactly how does that happen? Well, all it takes is a little heat.
And pressure. No, I'm just kidding.
THCA, short for tetrahydrocannabinolic acid, is a compound found in raw cannabis flower. When exposed to heat above roughly 230 degrees Fahrenheit, the molecular structure changes, and a carboxyl group is removed. That word that I just mumbled was carboxyl. A carboxyl group is removed. At this point, the cannabinoid converts to delta-9 THC, the classic stony baloney cannabinoid.
What's a baloney?
I don't even know. I made that word up. It's not even in what I'm reading. Stony baloney.
There you go.
This is why the act of baking cannabis bud prior to infusing butter or oil is called decarboxylation. When consumed raw, THCA should not get people high. However, a high should be expected if THCA is exposed to heat and turned into THC. This can come from combusting cannabis flower with a high THCA percentage. For instance, when you light a joint, you smoke a bowl, or you bake it in the oven when you're decarboxylating it for edibles. THCA on its own, so you get that. Like, you can't just throw fresh bud into some cookies and get high. I mean, you can because they're going to bake, but they probably won't get up above 230 degrees if they're in the middle of a cookie.
Right.
You'll get a little high.
Yeah.
But if you decarb your bud and then infuse it into a butter, you're going to get much better results. You're going to have a lot more THCA. So that was a side banter. THCA.
No, you're going to have a lot more THC.
THC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said THCA.
Oh, jeez. THCA on its own does not bind to the CB1 and CB2 receptors in the endocannabinoid system. This explains why eating raw bud or THCA extract likely won't produce an overt psychoactive effect. Once the THCA drops its extra carboxyl group and becomes THC, it will interact with these receptors and get you buzzed. THCA hemp flower has been making waves in states without legal cannabis thanks to its perception as a lawful way to get lit.
It's all over the place.
It's everywhere. It can be argued that the bud is actually regular THC cannabis, since technically the two plants are one and the same. The flower purchased at a dispensary is essentially THCA flower, too. And both will turn to THC once they're rolled up and smoked. So one's coming from the cannabis sativa plant, one is coming from the hemp plant.
So when you go to a dispensary or you buy THCA hemp flower and you see the numbers on the label, It says THCA 24%, and then it says maybe
this is at a legal dispensary,
or it could be at a head shop that's selling hemp pre rolls.
Okay.
So or hemp flower, and it says THCA sold here or whatever. So on the jar or on the pre roll or whatever you buy, it'll say THCA 24.20%, and it might say THC 1.2%, because there is some THC in the flower. Okay, when it develops and it gets and it a little bit turns into THC, or when it's cured or when it's dried or whatever, you still get THC. Some might be 0.3%. As we know, hemp can only have 0.3% THC in it. So when you decarb that THCA, though, when you burn that joint, light that bowl, that THCA now is going to turn into the percentage of THC,
right,
which could go from 24% to 16%. Add the 1 or 2% THC that already might have been in there. Now you're at 18, 19%. You're going to lose some of that THCA. You're not going to get 100%. It's not going to go from 24% THCA to 24% THC. It doesn't work that way. You lose a little bit when you light it up. Just so you know that. You're not going to go from 124% to 24%. So if your bud says THCA 37%, knock down 8%, 10% of that, you're going to lose right off the bat. So you're actually smoking 29% or 28% THC. That makes sense? Okay, so go ahead. Sorry. I want to clarify that, because if some people I hear out in the world talking and posting stuff, and actually it was actually my brother who said, "Man, I've been getting this THCA, but it's really good." And I'm like, "Do you listen to our show? You should start." And he goes, "What do you get mad at me for?" I'm like, "I'm not mad at you. This is just what I've been hearing, and all I do is read about this shit and read articles and study and learn. And I'm telling you, you're not smoking." And he's just like, "Why are you getting mad at me?" I'm like, "I'm not mad. I'm just trying to teach you." I said, "If you don't want to talk to me about it, just listen to the fucking show, and you'll be just fine."
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There is a lot of confusion.
Yeah, tons.
A lot. I mean, we already have the Delta 8, 9, 10 thing. Now we've got THC, THCA, we've got hemp, we got
so much.
There is a lot.
I think a lot of people, a lot of the old school people that have been using weed for a long time, just like to
they just want some flower.
Just give me weed.
Yeah.
Just call it weed and just leave it alone.
All right, so we talked about all of that. Let's see. THCA hemp flower has been making waves in states without legal cannabis, thanks to its perception as a lawful way to get lit. It can be argued that the bud is actually regular THC, since technically the two plants are one and the same. The flower purchased at a dispensary is essentially THCA flower, and both will turn to THC once they're rolled up and smoked. However, interpretations of federal law have led many to believe there is a distinction, and the semantics leave one type of cannabis legal nationwide and the other as a Schedule I narcotic. THCA is technically legal in the eyes of the federal government as long as it's derived from hemp containing less than 0.3% THC. According to the 2018 Farm Bill, any hemp plants meeting this threshold can be harvested. It is the key language that has many arguing that THCA is legal. Attorney Rodney Kite, who specializes in cannabis and hemp, has become a leading authority on the subject of THCA. He explained the discrepancy by boiling down its interpretation. Under federal law and the laws of some but not all states, THCA flower is not a controlled substance.
Aha.
Kite previously told Green State. In another word, the sole metric for distinguishing hemp from marijuana is the level of Delta 9 THC.
Aha.
The levels of other cannabinoids, including THCA, are irrelevant to the material's legal status. In other words, the government has yet to change the law to include THCA in its definition of marijuana.
Boo.
No, that's good.
Well,
right?
The hemp bill is going to be, it's going to be messy.
Yeah. Even if THC and THCA are essentially one and the same, THC products have flooded the market. Oh my God, I'm not even making sense. I got to redo that. In other words, the government has yet to change the law to include THCA in its definition of marijuana, even if THC and THCA are essentially one and the same. Because of this, THCA products have flooded the market, particularly in states without cannabis dispensaries. That's not saying to smoke THC doesn't have its risks. The market is largely unregulated, meaning that the products aren't subject to stringent testing standards. There could be contaminants, pathogens, and there could be legitimate brands who go the extra mile and have certificates of analysis, but you really have to look for those. As Kite noted, some states have regulated THCA, so it's important to check local laws if you want to give the cannabinoid a try. Law enforcement who test THCA flower may find THC, even if the bud was purchased legally, quote unquote. And since smoking converts THCA to THC, people who are subject to drug tests will likely fail.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But there's a lot of confusion there too.
Right.
Consuming THCA has many perceived therapeutic benefits. It has been found to have anti-inflammatory and neuroprotectant abilities. THCA may someday even have a role in fighting cancer. For those who wish to use it for wellness without getting high, there are some options. You can juice the raw flower or biomass from cannabis plants. You can eat the fan leaves in your salad or juice, like in a smoothie. A number of companies have also introduced THCA tinctures to make dosing simple and effective. However, smoking THCA flower or hitting a vape of it will turn the cannabinoid into THC due to the presence of heat. So if you want to avoid psychoactive effects, leave the products on the shelf. So it's having quite a moment, THCA, for those seeing the cannabinoid turn up at their local smoke shops or dispensaries, and they are wondering, does that get me high? The answer is, it depends on how you use it. If turned into THC via fire, vape, baking it, it will definitely lead to psychoactive effects. However, if you use it raw, it should not lead to a buzz. The legality around the cannabinoid is a bit hazy, so use caution always about where you purchase it, when you possess it, where you possess it, and where you consume it. And remember, THC can't take the heat. So unless you want to get high, leave the lighter on the table.
That help you understand it? I gave you that article for a reason. So, do you wonder where all the money is in weed?
Yeah, tell me.
I posted this article the other last week, and I hear, and I'm not going to read this whole article and stuff, but I hear, some people making money, some people not making money, some people going bankrupt, some people losing, some people winning, some people getting scammed and schemed. It's never going to be an end. It's never going to be 100%. Any industry is never 100% guaranteed. Right?
Right.
This industry is not even federally legal, and we're not, and so it's very hard for anybody to make money in this industry.
Yeah.
Now, I could say one thing though. I know who's making money at this right now.
The government.
The states.
That's about it.
That's about it. And if they're telling us they're not, they're full of shit.
Right.
If Illinois made $640 million last year in 2023 on taxes between rec and med, come on now. They don't deserve one day. I'll say it, and I'll say it all. None of these states deserve this money at all. Okay? So, but first and foremost, there's your number one reason why no one's making any money. When $640 million is going to the state, you're making something, but you ain't making a lot.
Right.
Okay? Black market, people blame the black market still. That they're taking money, they were here first.
And there's a lot of people that can't afford to go to a dispensary.
Right. You can't. It's impossible to get a license.
Especially, a lot of medical patients.
Right.
You need your medicine weekly. If you're using it for ailments and to help treat a condition, you need it weekly. If you have to go to the dispensary and say you need like a quarter ounce every week, maybe you can't even afford it because on the street, you can get an eighth of an ounce for your budget, but in the dispensary, you can only get like a quarter ounce or an eighth. Or I said that backwards,
gram.
But you know what I mean.
You can get a gram at a dispensary here in
You're
Illinois.
buying half as much at the dispensary.
But you get an eighth for almost the same price.
So it kind of forces the traditional market to stick around.
I love the traditional market. I'll always love the traditional market.
It's a good product.
I think it's the best. So corporate weed, a lot of people can't afford to get into the corporate weed game. Too much money. But even the corporations had to have a bazillion investors, or they had to go onto the stock exchange to get investors to put a little bit of money. Like if you bought 1,000 shares in whatever for $13, that's 1,000 shares. But think of how many shares they sold. So, and they use that money, you would hope, to invest into building more dispensaries or more cultivation or hiring more employees, more whatever they need. That's why they go to that. So now they're giving you a piece of their pie for your money to be able to reinvest. Or there's been some fucking schemers and scammers that started a company, got on the board, got their little ticker on the board, and schemed and scammed people out of millions of dollars. So there's that too. So black market weed industry, I love it, and I hope it sticks around. I hope that the black market can do what we've talked about, where you allow people to start their own grow in their own home. It should just
be a free market.
A free market system. You buy a license. Let people do business. Like the caregivers in Michigan. You buy a license. You get to have, the state allows it. You can have 50 or 100 clients, and you can produce and make a fine living out of your home, or buy a little farm, whatever you do. You know, it gives people the chance, not just the corporate, or not the people that were able to get in. I can't afford to get in, and all I dream about is owning a small little medical dispensary. I don't want to own a rec dispensary. I mean, I wouldn't care if I had one, but I'd rather just own a small little medical dispensary to build a good clientele.
I just got a really good business idea. You always have good
ideas. So hold on. Do you need?
I'm not talking about it.
Okay, good.
It's that good.
Do you need a pen and paper?
I think I'm gonna remember it.
Okay, good. So I think, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, this is an everybody money thing. This business, everybody can make money into it. Not just one company, not just one government, not just the states. Everybody should be allowed who wants to participate in the free market cannabis system should be allowed to participate. Black market, corporate market, whatever. Because everyone's going to build their own clientele. I'll stick to that to the day I die. Right. So to me, where's all the money gone? I also feel that people in this industry, compared to the black market folks, don't know how to make money at all.
No,
they don't. Maybe 15%, I think, of people in this industry that own a dispensary, own cultivation, really know how to make money. Good money, like holy fuck money. Mm-hmm. You know, I see so much money being wasted in this industry to where it just blows my mind. How much money could be going back into the people working for your company, that because you blew $8 million on some stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? To where you wouldn't have to lay people off, but you could have fucking put that back into your company, into the employees. Mm-hmm. Or I saw another company blow on a marketing campaign fucking $10 million. Jeez. That maybe return on their investment, which you have to understand something, people, everybody out there in the world. There's in every state, there's only a small population that smokes cannabis. And yeah, there's more coming to it and maybe leaving something that they did. But everyone thinks that there's millions of people that smoke weed. Maybe in what we read in the United States, 144 million people have tried weed. But how many people in this country smoke weed? I don't even think they truly know the number. But how many people in this country smoke weed every day? Or some people maybe smoke it on the weekends. Some people maybe smoke it.
It's millions.
I'm not saying it's not millions. Yeah. But I'm saying every day on a regular basis.
I think millions.
You think 50 million? No, I don't think so. In this just in this country, I'm saying. So if you go into a state like, let's just say Illinois, right? Or Michigan or California. Okay, I'm going to give you 3 states because I'm from this state. I know Michigan well, and California. Okay? Population, anywhere between 6 million to 40 million, right? Okay? Let's just say in the state of Illinois, there's 192 dispensaries. Cultivation doesn't really matter. We're talking about dispensaries. Some are in big major cities. Some are in small little towns. If you go to a small town, let's just say Jacksonville, Illinois, 16,000 people. How many people do you think smoke weed for that one dispensary? 1,000? 500? That's what I'm trying to get at here. Right. Not everybody in this country is smokes weed. Mm-hmm. Let's go to Michigan. Population 7 million, whole state, right? 650 dispensaries, let's just say, throughout that whole state. How many people smoke weed in that state?
Right.
500,000? 250,000? Let's just say 500,000 people. Not talking about people coming in from other states.
Right.
This business was meant to be good living, not become billionaires and make millions of dollars. There's not enough people just because there's not enough people. If you have 654 dispensaries, but only 500,000 people use cannabis, and some of them go to caregivers, and some of them go to the black market, and maybe you have 1,000 people, 2,000 people a week, you're going to cap out is what I'm trying to get at. So where's all the money? The money's there. But it's oversaturated, over too many businesses for where we're not at right now. That's why I think the corporate structure of it all is they don't know how to make money. You got people giving product away. You got people not using a false, fake business model to just earn just enough. I've seen it in so many corporations because all these corporate people have come to cannabis now and they're using those same techniques I've seen in beer, I've seen in liquor, I've seen in eggs, and I've seen in just marketing ploys to get people to come to your product, but you give the house away and no one's making money. I've seen it in hundreds of industries. Only one person might be making money, and that's the person at the top. Everybody else fucking suffers. That's all I'm trying to get at. You know, where's the money in weed? I think it should stay in the traditional market. That's just my opinion. I think I loved what I see when we go to these farmers markets. It's fucking amazing.
Or the laws just have to change so that it can just be local businesses. There can be your big box stores for it, and then there's going to be your mom and pop shops.
Right. And the mom and pop shops will always survive.
And you can have like a real business.
Do you realize that still to this day?
What?
Family-owned run businesses still employ more people than corporations do.
That's cool.
Still do to this day. Support small business owners, people. They are the foundation of what we all want in our life or stand for in this country, not major corporations and major capitalism. I hear people all the time, I hate capitalism. I don't. I love to watch a single mom start her own business to be able to take care of her family. Mm-hmm. That is fucking one of my most favorite. What have I been saying this for that for years? Or a single dad, or a low-income family starting a business and has huge success. Now they're millionaires.
Right. Like, are they supposed to stop when people want what they're offering?
But I think it's amazing.
I'm not allowed to get wealthy.
But if they do, but even if they do,
then
great. But if they make a good living to provide and have a good life, and they work and they have their own store and they are able to participate in that freedom, that's what it's all about. So that's why I think the cannabis industry is flawed in a lot of ways, because it doesn't give the mom and pop folks a shot like they should.
But we're going to get there.
I know.
I've always
There's
said.
some states that already do. Like I went to Oklahoma and saw a lot of small business owners there. I thought it was fucking amazing. Mm-hmm. But that's another state
but now
too.
They're all
but that's another state too. 1800. Here's a recipe for failure, and it's sad because I love their market. 1,800 dispensaries, and I don't know if there's still that many. There was 8,000 cultivation at one time. Jeez. Okay. Legal, they're only medical, and there's only 400,000 patients.
Right.
You don't make money there. That's what I'm trying to get at. You don't. Only 400,000 patients that were able to be able to go to the stores.
Right.
The numbers don't match. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm getting at. The money is there. It's just how it's being run when states fuck it up. And people don't know how to run it. There's some people out there that know how to run a correct business. I'm not taking that away from anybody. There's a lot of people out there who don't know how to run a right business. And I see so much waste. That's just my opinion. Take it or leave it. People, here's something funny. Maybe not so funny. It just depends on who you are. People are saying they're not getting high like they used to. Mm-hmm. And weed is only getting stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But tell us about Miss Weedman.
So we've got some great tips for you if that's the case. So, what happens when weed loses its effectiveness? Do we hit more joints, and does that just become our new baseline for consumption? Does the ineffectiveness of cannabis become a gateway to other harder or more complex drugs? Why don't I get high anymore? Why don't I feel stoned anymore? What should I do when weed doesn't hit like it used to? This Julian Ariel Nunez, a general practitioner at Cullen Hospital in Argentina, president of the Civil Association ASECIR, and a specialist in endocannabinology.
Yeah, right there.
Endocannabinology says, yes, I'm okay. It's important to establish the connection between marijuana, the doses, and the strains. Why? Because people often stick with the same strain for a while. It's advisable to swap strains every now and then and see how it goes with other strains, evaluating the THC and the purpose of consumption. Cannabis, an ally for moments of tranquility, shedding burdens, slowing down, making more conscious decisions, and also for reading, writing, listening to music, or enjoying art, doesn't work the same for everyone, nor is it the same for every time. So, at the very least, one must exercise patience and know when to take a break. When people feel they need more cannabis or feel it hits them less, I would suggest trying an oil with roughly the same concentrations as the plant that they're using. This will keep their receptors aligned during the day or keep them active so that when they smoke, they need less, Nunez continues, stitching together a possible truth. In that sense, cannabis consumers who feel that cannabis doesn't hit like it used to are experiencing what is commonly known as tolerance. We're talking about THC, which we prescribe a lot for relaxation and mental health. And when I say relax, we can think about the symptoms of anxiety. These are anticipatory thoughts and excessive worry, explains Dr. Angeles Garcia Vara, psychiatrist. So, when seeking to relax, some professionals recommend medicinal cannabis. The thing is, when you smoke a lot of THC, the receptors distributed throughout the body, mainly those located in the brain, become saturated, and it stops having an effect. This phenomenon, known as tolerance, the psychiatrist explains. In that sense, if users don't get their dose of THC, they'll probably experience withdrawal symptoms, with states of anxiety, muscle tension, irritation, and more. You should gradually decrease the amount of high THC genetics and incorporate high CBD genetics, so you're not cutting off THC abruptly, because that would be tough, and try using cannabidiol, like high CBD genetics, to clean up the effects of THC a bit, because a cannabidiol is an allosteric modulator.
That's pretty good, Ms. Weedman.
Thank you. It prevents THC from interacting with the receptors, details Garcia Vara. Another approach Nunez mentions is rotating between high THC strains, and at the same time, pair this with aerobic exercises, breathing practices, good hydration, and a healthy diet. Rocio Zorzan, a doctor specializing in phytotherapy and an advisor in therapeutic cannabis, recommends a detox, a break that allows one to return to those first-time effects. There are many people who experience more unpleasant than enjoyable effects, and many others who don't understand the difference between responsible use and problematic use. Everything in excess is harmful, from drinking water to smoking marijuana. Cannabis dependency occurs when our body gets used to high levels of THC and stops producing the body's natural endocannabinoids, she says. And she continues, once consumption is stopped, if it's stopped abruptly, withdrawal symptoms will be very noticeable due to the endocannabinoid system's inability to produce these molecules. So if reflecting on your cannabis use leaves you deciding to take a break, the first thing Zorzan recommends is not to cut THC off abruptly, because the withdrawal effects will be stronger and you'll quickly fall back into consumption. Instead, the best way to approach a detox or tolerance break is to do it gradually and in stages. The expert says reduce the dose and increase the time between consumption periods. For example, if you consume a joint a day, reduce the dose to half. Aim to smoke half a joint a day and not consume it every day. This way, the body and nervous system are given enough time to synthesize endocannabinoids again. How long should you do this? Generally, a minimum of 72 hours and up to 30 days without consumption. The longer the detox lasts, the more control over your THC consumption can be achieved. You might wonder, do I really need to spend 30 days clean? Well, that's approximately how long it would take for your endocannabinoid system to restart functioning with its endocannabinoid levels, adds Zorzan. And professionals recommend detoxing at least every 2 or 3 months. When you're detoxing, remember to do physical activities that involve burning fat and enjoy a diet that cleans out toxins, like avoiding flour, sugar, soda, meats, fried food, alcohol, and other drugs.
We're out.
I know, right? Instead, try to incorporate more plants, fruits, vegetables, and legumes.
Which we eat that too.
Says Nunez. Yeah.
We eat a little bit of everything.
Yeah. THC operates on cognition, memory, reflexes, and emotions. So it's also necessary to exercise the mind, innovate, think, cultivate art and meditation through yoga exercises, mindfulness, and even math exercises.
I'm out on that one too.
If you exercise your mind, you'll promote neurogenesis, the production of new neurons, anyway, concludes Zorzan. Sometimes the body asks for a reset, and a tolerance break from cannabis can be the best solution. Smoke less and return to better effects from cannabis. It's a win-win.
There you go.
Whew.
Yeah, right there?
I'm all right. Are you?
Yeah.
Good.
We're running a little long. Everybody stick with us, all right? So, will 2024 be the year Kansas legalizes weed? Saying they're going to try. We'll see. New bill aims to allow cities and counties in Washington to use cannabis money to cover costs of affordable housing and public safety. That's pretty cool, right? People need a place to live, you know? Governor Kathy Hochul of New York is frustrated with the slow rollout of New York recreational cannabis market. You think? You all screwed it up. The recreational market's been going on, with or without you. It's there. People are smoking on the streets. People are going into bodegas. They said, we ain't waiting. That's how New York is. They don't wait for nobody, Governor. It's there. You just can't control it. So, State Rep Edward Zozinski, House Bill 285 to expend Delaware's cannabis program, got the approval from the state House members. Good for Delaware. Connecticut's loophole, I don't calling them loopholes anymore. I call it business development planning, allows THC beverage sales in liquor stores. All right. Business development right there. Federal judge dismisses lawsuit challenging Mississippi's medical marijuana advertising ban. The judge said that challenging the state's cannabis advertising rules would be a drastic intrusion upon state sovereignty. All right. Cool. Go, Mississippi. Ohio House Speaker Jason Stevens said he is working on marijuana sales rules and toward getting something done by the spring. Slow. They're going to go real slow. Senate President Matt Hoffman in Lima is optimistic about reaching an understanding on the issue within the next month. Slow, like turtles. Virginia lawmakers begin to tackle weed sales 3 years after legalization. Iowa's bold step to kind of progress their cannabis, very mediocre, very nothing cannabis medical program there, but they were only doing concentrates. They're going to add basically raw flower, forms of cannabis, inhalables, topicals, oral. So they're going to add some more compared to just only having extracts. So, major Florida GOP donors stand to make windfall profits and recreational cannabis is legalized. So all the ones that were saying they didn't want it to happen, now they want it to happen because they're going to see how much money and now that I have a feeling now that Ron DeSantis is not going for president and he's going to be probably go for governor
he's gonna
again.
do it.
He already said that your gun shouldn't be taken away if you're in the medical cannabis program. So right then and there,
he supports it.
Right. So he's starting to show some support. But when he was on the trail, he was saying, I don't think cannabis should be legal at all. I think we should retract everything. He was like totally against it to try to gain popularity throughout the rest of the country, the Bible Belt and all that shit, who don't believe in cannabis. So hypocrite. Legal storm brews as Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission faces scrutiny and lawsuit challenging licensing process. I had someone come up to me the other day. I think it was Sunday, and was telling me that he loves, and I think it was somebody that was making some of the cannabis tinctures. Was saying that he makes cannabis suppositories for himself, and he loves them. He goes, they work great. I was like, all right, so Alabama, huh? So if there's a guy over here that swears by him, you're gonna be just fine down in Alabama. I kind of looked at him because I said to him, when he said to me, I said, only in Alabama you could buy suppositories with cannabis in it in the medical program. He goes, man, they work great. They're gonna love them down.
Well, then it goes in right into your blood, right?
Ooh, I don't know what it does. I never tried a suppository before, so I guess it does. So,
great.
New Hampshire lawmakers engaged in heated debate over marijuana legalization, clashing on key issues. Strange. Majority of U.S. likely voters back legalizing marijuana in all 50 states. New poll from G.O.A.T research firms show. Sweet. Just legalize it. Free the plant. Senator Flagzowski, Mike Wazowski, said her cactuses don't support creating state-run dispensaries instead of private entities. Huh? Mike Wazowski, Wisconsin. What is going on, Senator Flagzowski?
So high.
Go Genetics, man. He gets us really baked. Every time we do his strain on our show, boy. Whew. Assembly Speaker Robin Voss recently said he will not compromise with state Senate Republicans on the measure. Just Wisconsin is going to be fucked up still. Weed sales are booming this month. Why?
Valentine's Day.
No, it's still January.
Oh, it's January. Dry January.
That's it.
We don't have more on that.
No, but just people are just.
Oh, you're just pointing out that weed sales are up. All right.
Through the roof.
Everything else, sales are down.
Yeah, except for weed.
Weed's up.
Uh-huh.
Oh, my Lord.
All right. So I gave you 2 articles to read.
Yeah, I'll just read one of them.
Read them? All right.
You want me to read them both?
That's up to you.
I'll read them both.
But this is good because this talks of 2 perspectives on booze and cannabis and driving.
I'll cover them both.
All right, cover them both.
How about that?
All right, I can relax for a minute.
Okay. This one comes from New York. Road safety not negatively impacted by cannabis legalization. Cannabis legalization does not lead to increased fatalities on the road, according to a recent court study that examined the number of deaths per 1 million vehicle miles in states with and without comprehensive cannabis legalization compared with the national average. Using data sourced from the National Safety Council, researchers collected vehicle death rates and aggregated fatality rates in 4 states that legalized cannabis for adult use in 2016: California, Maine, Massachusetts, and Nevada, and compared them with the national average. Researchers also compiled the same crash data from 5 states without recreational cannabis laws in place. Those were Idaho, Indiana, Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming, to paint a nuanced picture about legalization. According to the study's authors, 2020 and 2021 were anomalies across the country in many regards, including motor vehicle incidences. After decades of declining accident rates in the U.S., traffic fatalities picked up in 2020 and stayed high through 2021, the report states. The U.S. as a whole saw traffic fatality rates spike 18.9% from 2019 to 2021. Interesting. And if these 2 outlier years are excluded from the data set, traffic fatalities differ significantly between the 4 states that legalized cannabis in 2016 and the 5 that did not. The national traffic fatality rate dropped, get this, by 10.6% between 2016 and 2019, and fell 11.6% in the 4 states that legalized cannabis in 2016. During the same 3-year period, the average traffic fatality rate increased by 1.7% in the 5 states without recreational cannabis laws. In Massachusetts, which saw the largest change, traffic fatalities dropped by 28.6% during the 3 years following their cannabis legalization. Crazy. The Quartz study's authors also cite data from a December 2022 Casualty Actuarial Society report that examined property and casualty insurance using U.S. and Canadian accident data from 2016 to 2019 to examine the effects of legalization on traffic safety. The tests for the decriminalization effect on fatalities failed to detect a statistically significant change, the CAS report states. The analysis showed no statistically significant changes in the average cost per claim and claim frequency after marijuana legalization in Canada. The quarterly data available for Quebec led to similar findings. The CAS report speaks to the risk associated with cannabis impairment behind the wheel. The literature review shows that while marijuana impairment affects driving behavior, the behavior is not always riskier. For example, slower speeds and longer following distances of impaired drivers have been reported, the report states. The observational studies of road accidents report mixed results, most often not detecting significant effects, particularly in the long term. Forbes Advisors published its findings on the most dangerous states for drunk driving in 2023, citing Montana as the worst state for drunk driving. The top 5 most dangerous states, Montana, South Dakota, Texas, Wyoming, and North Dakota, have not even passed adult use cannabis laws.
Oof.
Very interesting.
Very.
You want me to go on with this other one?
Make it quick.
Okay. This one is about THC blood levels not correlated with changes in driving performance. So this is booze and THC. The presence of THC in blood is not predictive of detriments in psychomotor performance, according to driving simulator data published in the journal JAMA Network Open. Researchers affiliated with the University of Toronto assessed subjects' simulated driving performance at baseline and then again 30 and 180 minutes after smoking cannabis. Participants were between the age of 65 and 79 years old and smoked cannabis with a mean THC potency of 19% at their discretion prior to driving. Subjects exhibited small changes in weaving 30 minutes after cannabis inhalation. Investigators described these changes as less pronounced than those associated with drivers with a blood alcohol content below 0.05%. Consistent with the results of prior studies, participants decreased their speed after smoking and were more likely to self-assess their performance as impaired. Cannabis use did not impact participants' reaction times. Subjects' simulated driving performance returned to baseline within 3 hours. The study's authors concluded the purpose of the present study was to investigate the association between cannabis and driving and blood THC levels in older adults. There was no correlation between blood THC concentration and swerving or speed. The lack of correlation between driving and blood THC fits within emerging evidence that there is no linear relationship between the two. That conclusion is consistent with numerous studies reporting that neither the detection of THC nor its metabolites in blood and other bodily fluids is predictive of impaired driving performance. As a result, NORML has long opposed the imposition of THC limits for motorists and has alternatively called for the expanded use of mobile performance technology like DRUD impairment screening. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, very. That's why I gave you both those articles. So, international news, an ancient tomb revealed a potent surprise. 17th century bones contained THC. Researchers studied bones in the Italian medical crypt from the 17th century and discovered the presence of cannabis. Since cannabis was not a prescribed medical treatment at the time, in that hospital, the team hypothesized that the use was recreational. While stories of cannabis use stretches well before the 17th century, this is the first physical evidence showing the plant's use. And nobody was in jail in the 17th century for using cannabis either. People used it freely and grew it freely and didn't get in any trouble for it until 1937. Harry Asslinger. Next. German medical chief blasts cannabis legalization, saying allowing weed at age 18 is absolutely irresponsible. You know how many people have been using weed at 18, whether or not you're going to let them use it or not? They've still been doing it. It's not irresponsible. Just make it so they don't get in trouble.
Well, they do say it can affect brain development.
Until 25.
Yeah.
So I've been smoking weed since I was 13.
Is it 25? I thought it was like
it's 25. No, maybe 22. I thought it was 25. But you could be right. And I could be wrong. You're probably right.
I don't know.
Keep it fair. You're right. Listen, I've been smoking weed since I was 13. I don't have drain bramage, do I?
Not at all.
Not drain bramage? None?
Nope.
Who's taken the cannabis industry by storm?
This is an article about Tiffany Chin. She takes the cannabis industry by storm as CEO of Death Row Cannabis. Tiffany Chin's story reads like a script from Hollywood to high-quality hemp. Swapping the entertainment industry for the cannabis scene, she's taken the reins as CEO at Death Row Cannabis, blending boldness and business smarts. You can catch her as speaker at the Benzinga Cannabis Market Spotlight in California, and until then, here is how Tiffany Chin became renowned in the cannabis world. Chin entered the cannabis industry by joining Casa Verde Capital and launching Leafs by Snoop. These were strategic decisions aimed at seizing opportunities in a promising industry. While working at Casa Verde Capital, Chin played a crucial role in establishing the firm as a leader in cannabis venture capital. Her leadership at Leafs by Snoop went beyond building a brand and creating a presence. Her partnership with Canopy allowed Leafs by Snoop to expand its reach into Canada from 2015 to 17, a critical period for the brand's international growth. Under Chin's guidance, Leafs by Snoop achieved impressive success with annual sales of over $50 million.
Damn.
In Colorado, Chin's collaboration with LiveWell wasn't just about product development. It was about understanding what cannabis consumers were craving. The result was a range of products that landed in about 500 stores, a testament to her ability to capture market trends.
That's pretty big.
With a move to Michigan in 2023, it was another clever chapter in Chin's Cannabis Chronicle. Teaming up with Pleasantries, it helped weave Death Row Cannabis into Michigan's unique mix of music and cannabis culture. With Pleasantries' cultivation expertise, the partnership was as much about quality as it was about cultural fit. She'll be speaking on global expansion at the 2023 Benzinga Cannabis Conference and remarked, "Global expansion is not just a phrase. It signifies the older generation's acceptance and adoption of cannabis, stressing the broadening demographic appeal and international reach of the cannabis industry." In the same discussion, Chin highlighted the social aspect of cannabis consumption and its potential expansion into sports venues through partnerships with cannabis beverage brands, anticipating a blend of cannabis culture within mainstream entertainment and sporting events. So go on, Tiffany Chin.
Hell yeah.
She's showing us how it's done.
Killing it.
Yeah. Very impressive.
Yep. NFL's progressive move towards CBD for pain and concussion management. That's awesome. They're going to be doing some tests and some studies and going more towards that than they are opioids and painkillers. The NCAA is rethinking marijuana policies. The UFC eliminates marijuana from banned substances. So policy changes by the NFL, the NCAA, and UFC are not just about altering rules. They are about changing the narrative around CBD and marijuana in sports. These shifts signal a more empathetic and health-centered approach to athlete care, recognizing the potential benefits of these substances in pain management and recovery. Elon Musk had to be drug tested for a whole year after smoking weed on the Joe Rogan podcast. and that was like the
Why?
most listened to podcast of all of Joe Rogan's podcast ever. The FDA, because he is part of SpaceX,
Oh my gosh.
and SpaceX is federally funded,
Wow.
and so because he owns SpaceX, he had to get tested for a whole year.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? So, that was, like I said, that was a huge episode that people like went to it just because he smoked weed on camera.
Oh, I see.
Remember that?
No.
No? Oh man, it was all over. It was all over everything. So, but yeah, so he had to get tested for a whole year. Couldn't use weed. It sucks for him. So, Mrs. Weedman,
Mr. Weedman.
that's the end of the show.
That's it.
Got anything else to say?
Let's smoke some more.
We will. We will.
Yeah.
G.O.A.T Genetics, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you,
for
Genetics.
donating to the cause. You got us baked. You got me stumbling, mumbling, rumbling a couple times in some of those articles.
Same. But
you made me laugh. You made me feel nice, and I feel no pain. So thank you, G.O.A.T Genetics for throwing us some weed for the show. So anything else, Ms. Weedman?
That's it. Stay well, everybody. Have a good week. Mr. Weedman.
Hey, everybody out there in the world, we love you. Peace be with you all. Man, share some dorks with one another. We need some love. We need some kindness out there. We love you. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.